if you are interested in the Mandela effect, I'm sure that you have heard on the internet, YouTube, websites, that this very interesting book, English Alive, has been discovered. And in one of its editions, you can find a text that says that Nelson Mandela would have died in 1991. And the book is available on Google Books. I have it here, as you can see. And if you use the search button, don't forget that I'm Portuguese, so that's why the funny accent. And if you use the word July and then hit search, you will find here the famous statement that says that Nelson Mandela died on the 23rd of July 1991. Plain and simple. So there's no doubt about that. But what all these sites have failed to do and provide, and I'm a little bit surprised by that, is that they don't research it anymore, and they don't bother to try and discover when was this actually written, the exact date it was written, and they don't bother to discover who wrote it, who is the author of this text, because we know that English Alive was, and still is, a collection of books of text, written by college students in South Africa. Please bear in mind that college in South Africa is not the same as college in the United States. It means secondary school in Europe or a high school in the United States, so for kids ages between 13 and 18. Okay? So when I saw this, I decided to research it myself, because I am one of the many that remembers hearing about the death of Nelson Mandela while he was in prison, but that's not consistent with him dying in 1991, since according to the official story, as we are told now, he was liberated from prison on February 1990, the 11th. So that's not consistent with what I have in my memory and many others. What we remember is that he died in the late 80s. I did my college studying between 1986 and 1991, and I remember that it was in that period. I'm not sure what year, but it could not have been in 1991. So what I did is I decided to research it further for myself using this button here. And what I did is I used different words, and from that I got different screenshots of the book, and that allowed me to come up with some very interesting findings that I'm going to share with you. So you see that using 54 for instance, you get different screenshots, and what I did was I used several words, and then I copy-paste the results into a PowerPoint file. Very simple, and let me share with you what I find out. And as you're gonna see, we're gonna discover very easily who wrote the text, when was it written, and what did it mean actually. So the first thing you must understand is that on the Google Books page, there are actually two editions of the English Alive. Okay, there's the 1990 edition and there's the 1991 edition. Okay, and this is undeniable because if we go back there, as you can see, I had used the number 54 to do the research, and page 54 of the edition 1990 as an article by Morning Lazarus, and page 54 of the English Alive 1991, it's someone else's text. Okay, so there's no doubt that there are two editions of English Alive within this same file of Google Books, and when you use the search button, you search both files. Okay, hence the different results I have here. And what I did here in this first slide is, on the left hand side I have everything that is concerned with the 1990 issue of English Alive, and on the right hand side of the screen you have everything that is related to the 1991 edition. Okay, very easy to see the differences. For instance, in the index on the 1990 edition, the numbers are aligned on the right. and on the 1991 edition, the page numbers of each text is right after its title. It's not aligned. Okay. Also here on the bottom, you can see there are clear references to the 1990 issue of English Alive and the 1991 issue. Okay. More important than that, you can see here in the index that we can find the last entry of each edition. So the last article in 1990 edition is by some guy named Morne Lazarus, and he wrote a text called Life on Earth. And in the 1991 edition, it's his closing speech by Andrew McCarthy. Please note that they don't start at the same page, but they end at the same page. Okay, this means that the 1991 text from Andrew McCarthy is one page longer than the one from Morne Lazarus. Okay, so in order for you to be sure that there are two books, okay, I just want to show it to you one more time. Okay, here we have the 1990 edition with an ISBN which ends with 862, as you can see here. Okay, if you search for the 1991 edition, as I'm doing right now, you will see that we get a different book with a different ISBN. Okay, here it is, 1991, and the ISBN here with the 368 at the end. So there is no doubt that there are two different books. Okay, so going back to my PowerPoint, let's see what else I found out. So this you already know, but now it was my next point of investigation was on which text should I focus, on the Morne Lazarus or on the Andrew McCarthy one. And it's easy to see that the Morne Lazarus has nothing to do with Nelson Mandela, because it's something about science fiction. It's a science fiction story. Okay, you could already get it from its title, Life on Earth, but if you go through these screenshots that I put together here for you, it's very easy to see that it's a science fiction text. And even at the end of the 1990 issue of the book, you see there is a mention here to the text from Morne Lazarus, stating that we find an unusual perspective of elements of our existence. Science fiction is used as the genre, blah blah blah. So okay, no doubt that this is not the text we are looking for. So we will have to focus on the Andrew McCarthy text. Okay, which means that the sentence that we saw stating that Nelson Mandela died in 1991 must be included in the text submitted by Andrew McCarthy in the 1991 edition, not the 1990 edition. Okay, it's very important to keep that in mind. So what I did after that was I tried to get as many screenshots as I could from that text from Andrew McCarthy. Okay, and I came up with the first one. So the first page, page 52, and the only thing I could find was the title and the first phrase right above it. Okay, and as you can see, Andrew McCarthy invites the readers to, in his words, in our minds, let's go ahead exactly 1 year in time, and this is very important. And at the end of his text, we see the 1992 date there. And so my research then focused on trying to discover the line right above this one, because if we could find it, we would know what 1 year in time meant for him at the time, and so we could discover when exactly he wrote the article. Okay, so these are all the screenshots that I could come up with. And then I tried to piece them together, and to show you the results, I'll use a Word file here. Okay, and so that this is the first page. Okay, there's not I couldn't find anything else. I tried all kinds of words, but I couldn't find anything else on page 52. The same for page 53, nothing. But on page 54, I was able to reconstruct it almost entirely. Okay, something is missing here above this first shot, but I couldn't find it. But then after that, I'm almost certain that everything is well in place. You can check here. You can. It's kind of it produces some kind of mirror effect that I put it there for you, so you can see that everything is well pieced together. Okay, but the most important one is at the end, because we wanted to know what Andrew meant by 1 year in the future. And here, as you can see that it's a perfect match between the commas and the letters that go below the line of the text, like the like the J's and the Y's and the commas, right? So everything is well in place. So we can read the last paragraph, and it says that, as you can see it for yourself, on this 15th day of March 1992, I sentence you, Frederick Willem de Klerk, to death for the murder of a nation. So this means that Andrew McCarthy wrote this text on March 15th, 1991. That's undeniable. It's what it says here. In our minds, let's go ahead exactly 1 year in time, meaning that he was writing this article on the 15th of March 1991. Undeniable. Okay? So this is very important to keep in mind, because it means that when Andrew McCarthy wrote this article, or this text if you want, Nelson Mandela had not died yet. Okay? Even according to what he writes further down on his text, right here it is. Nelson Mandela died on the 23rd of July 1991. So what this means is that Andrew McCarthy wrote this article, this text, projecting it in the future, and he assumed that Nelson Mandela would die in the following months. Okay, you might ask, what does his closing speech mean? Well, if you read carefully all the text that is available here, okay, you can read it, you can pause the video. It's very easy to understand that Andrew McCarthy is putting on trial Frederick de Klerk. Okay, and hence the title. His closing speech is his closing arguments. Okay, and if you go through the text, it's very easy that from most of the part, it's as if de Klerk was speaking before a jury, presenting his case. That's why he says, at some point, we had to take steps, you must agree. We did a political about turn, the release of Nelson Mandela on February the 2nd, 1990. And you might say, but that's not when he was actually released from jail. Yes, but this is de Klerk speaking. And he announced in the South African Parliament the release of Nelson Mandela on February the 2nd, 1990. So this is correct, as are all the other dates in the text that we can find from Andrew McCarthy. And the only one that is not correct is the one in which he predicts that Nelson Mandela predicts, so to speak, of course, that Nelson Mandela would die on the 23rd of July 1991. Okay, and as you can see, at the end, the judgment is made, and Frederick de Klerk is sentenced to death, and that's the point of all of these texts by Andrew McCarthy. His closing speech is the closing speech of Mr. de Klerk, defending himself before a jury. Okay, so this is the research I've done, and I'm sure it provides definitive answers to the main questions that are at stake here. So now we know who wrote it, when he wrote it, and why he wrote it. Okay, and so unfortunately for those who are how could I say that? For those who are trying to prove, trying to find proof beyond any reasonable doubt that Nelson Mandela died prior to 2013, this is not where you will get it. Okay, and please remember, keep in mind that those that remember Nelson Mandela dying prior to 2013 remember him dying in prison. So that must be prior to uh, February the 11th, 1990. Anything after that is not possible. Okay, he must have died in the late 1980s. Okay, and I tried to find Andrew McCarthy on Facebook. Okay, I found one. He's from Johannesburg, which is consistent because the college that the Andrew McCarthy that wrote that text on English Alive, he was from Johannesburg, and as you can see, it still exists, the St. John's College. But this Andrew McCarthy that lives in Dubai, he says that he went to St. Andrew's College, and so that's not the same. Anyway, I asked him for friendship in Facebook, just in case it might be him, because it would still be interesting to talk to him and to find out what were in the rest of page 52 and page 53 of his article, and to know why he decided to have this vision of Nelson Mandela dying some 4 months after he was writing this text. But anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I hope that I have solved this mystery, if not 100%, at least 90%, because the only thing missing is on this mystery is why did Andrew McCarthy imagine that Nelson Mandela would die 4 months after he wrote this text. Take care.